So Michigan, I don't think anybody's misaligned here on what's going on with Michigan when it comes to right and wrong. And what I mean by that is, like, sign stealing as a whole, I said it yesterday, I think they probably did it, right? Like, I mean, you don't buy that many tickets to different Big Ten games. There's not this perceived mountain of evidence or alleged mountain of evidence against this team. And the reality is, yeah, they probably stole signs from where I'm sitting. I don't think that's really a stretch anymore. But I started talking to more people yesterday, and we started having these conversations, and I just sort of got confused about where this conversation was heading. Because I don't think anybody's disagreeing that if you cheat, that's wrong. Cheating is wrong. There's no way around it. You getting unfair advantage is wrong. Period. Point blank. The end. Mic drop. Like, that's the end of that discussion. But then we start going further down that discussion, and it's becoming a thing of like questioning Michigan and their success over the last couple of years. And that's one where I think you kind of meet that fork in the road, and there's agree and there's disagree. And sometimes you just agree to disagree and go your separate ways. And so I wanted to kind of talk about that because, again, if you're saying they cheated, we agree, and that's wrong. If you say that it's an unfair advantage, we agree, that's wrong. But if you make the leap to, well, they cheated, therefore that's the reason why they've been successful the last couple of years, that's where we don't agree. That's where we kind of got to have a conversation here, because I think we get confused with this whole sign stealing saga between the headline and then what actually is going on with sign stealing. Like, if you steal signs, that does not 100% equate to the football play. For a number of reasons. I'll also preface this with, this is a legal thing to do in the NFL. At the highest level of football, you can go and steal signs in person. The reason why we don't have this in college football, why it's illegal, it's still illegal. You still broke the rules, but it's illegal because not every school could afford to send staffers to go and scout in person in this fashion. So I understand it's still against the rules. We're not excusing that. I'm just saying, if it's allowed in the NFL, how much of an impact does it really have would be the question there. So again, stealing signs does not equate 110% to knowing the play for a couple of reasons. The first of which being, there was a Twitter clip going around yesterday, and it was Ohio State, Michigan, and I think it was a local TV clip that someone got a hold of and put out on the internet. And very clearly, you see Ohio State check the play, Michigan's sideline. It looked like, at least, looking at Ohio State's sideline, and then communicating back to their defense and sort of giving them this signal of like, hey, here's what's coming, here's the play, here's the play. And so whether that actually happened or not, that's the way that it looked. And so that's kind of what people ran with on social media and said, Jim Harbaugh, look at this unfair advantage. They're cheating. Look at it, broad as day. They're cheating. Unfair advantage. Well, I saw that clip and I was like, we were at that game. That feels like that was pretty early in the game. I wonder if we can find what play that was. So go to the full game on YouTube, look up the play, find what matches up with that clip. Y'all, that was a touchdown pass, the play that was going around yesterday. The play where Michigan was supposedly cheating and had the unfair advantage, that was a touchdown pass, which goes back to my point. Just because you potentially have an idea what the sign is doesn't mean you can stop it. And so we talked about that yesterday. Like, you have to eventually play football, and there's, just, again, probably a point where you disagree or you agree with that take. It is what it is. Deion Sanders, I think, said it perfectly. You still got to stop it. That's the first part. The other part of this is there is so much that goes into signs and signing to your offense, to where just because you have the sign, again, does not mean you know the play. It does not mean 100% you have the right defense drawn up to stop that play, for a couple of reasons. One, any good offensive coordinator, any good football team will change signs, I would imagine, on a weekly basis, if not semi-weekly basis. Like every couple of weeks, maybe you change the signs depending on what the TV broadcast picked up and things like that. I'll also say this. I did not play FBS football in the SEC or the Big Ten. I played Division I FCS, had a blast doing it, played in the Ivy League, and even in our conference, even with what my team did, we changed signalers throughout the course of the game. Meaning, even if you had the signs, it does not guarantee you knew who was signing in the play. Because the way that this works now, most teams, you see a bunch of different quarterbacks on the sideline. Maybe it's a GA, and they're all wearing different color hats. And so the coach will tell you, hey, right now, for this first half, red hat is live. backup quarterback number 2. He's live. That means all the other signals you're seeing, those are fake signals. Those are not really the play. All right? Then in the second half, it might be, hey, pink hat is live. The guy with the pink hat on, that's not the signaler. Red hat's still doing his sign. Blue hat's still doing his sign. Pink hat is the one that you want to look at. So again, what I'm trying to say is having signs does not equate to knowing the play. So even if you're saying, well, hey, that's unfair advantage. I don't disagree it's an unfair advantage. Knowing the signs, you shouldn't be able to do it. It's against the rules. But going back to the point of this whole conversation, to say it's wrong, we agree. To say it's why Michigan has been as good as they are the last couple of years, very much so disagree with that statement. And probably my biggest objection to that statement is it completely dismisses the personnel Michigan's had. Like, again, you want to say, well, you got to let them play ball, and that's not, if you know the play, it doesn't matter. Like, that's a whole other conversation. But football is about matchups. Football is about the players. It's about the players. And so to say that Michigan is only good or only had success because of the whole sign stealing thing just feels irresponsible and totally dismissing what they've had on the roster. Like, look at the guys they've had. Aiden Hutchinson, first round pick, currently tearing it up in the league with the Detroit Lions. I don't think sign stealing probably was changing what he was doing a whole lot. Blake Corum was in the Heisman Trophy race last year, one of the best backs in college football. Don't think that changes his race when it comes to the Heisman Trophy too much. Will Johnson, NFL corner, going to be an NFL corner. Mike Sanders-Still, going to be an NFL DB. Probably the best offensive line, not probably, the best offensive line in the country the last 2 years. That's not changing things. Like, it's frustrating because it's disrespectful to the personnel Michigan's had the last couple of years. And I don't have a dog in the fight here. Like, you'll notice the loudest voices against Michigan right now, as you would expect, are opposing fan bases that are directly rival to Michigan. I understand that. I'm for that. I don't have any problem with that. But again, to say that's the only reason Michigan's been good, we're kidding ourselves here. We're absolutely kidding ourselves here. So, one more thing I would say. There is also this assumption here that Michigan and the sign stealing that they did, allegedly, like totally just slanted the playing field a ton. That was already perfectly level. And I'm not like pointing the finger at any specific program, but what I would say is if Michigan got caught doing something against the rules, I would encourage us to turn over the entire rock and look under there with every other football team and say, okay, are they doing it 110% by the book? And I'm not talking about sign stealing. I'm talking about hours a week rule. We sure everybody that Michigan's playing, they're not going over that hours a week rule. We're 1,000% sure. Because I feel like you could probably, again, go into every single football team in America from D1 probably to D2, D3 and find something that doesn't totally perfectly fit with exactly the letter of the law the NCAA has laid out. So if we're saying that this was somehow, again, perfectly, the perfectly level playing field is now ruined because of what Michigan did, I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying to imagine that the unfair advantage Michigan had here was the only unfair advantage that was had in the football games they played. Come on now. Come on. Let's use our noggin a little bit here. Let's use our noggin here. You got caught. We're not excusing this. I'm also not excusing the fact that just because Ohio State scored on that play, if Michigan stole their signs and if they knew that play, well, then that's too bad. They didn't stop it. That's on them. That's not evidence that sign stealing is ever okay. But I think it does, again, go back to the point that just because of these signs and the sign stealing thing, there should be consequences. But let's not just throw away Michigan's success the last couple of years. The NFL did it by nature of who they've taken from those football teams and who they're going to take this upcoming draft with those football teams. I mean, there's going to be double-digit guys drafted from Michigan this year. I don't think they care what signs they did or didn't have. So, as a whole, if you think sign stealing is wrong, we're with you. I'm not for sign stealing. I don't agree with sign stealing. That's wrong. No matter how you put it, that is cheating. That is an unfair advantage. But to say Michigan still wouldn't be Michigan with this whole sign stealing stuff, I have a very, very difficult time getting on board with that. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.